In the previous lecture, we had discussed that what is meant by statistical testing and what is the concept of statistical null hypothesis and statistical alternate hypothesis, and how these are used in sorting out the biological problems and how they are linked to the statistical analysis or statistical testing. And then we also saw the definition of one-tailed and two-tailed test. So from now onwards, we are going to start the statistical tests that make use of the statistical null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis, and we will see that how these tests they are executed, that how we formulate our null hypothesis, how we formulate our alternate hypothesis, and how do we do these calculations. So we will do the simple statistical tests, the basic statistical tests, and we will start from those tests which involve the analysis of frequencies. For example, if you have your data or if you have your observations in a form which are the frequencies of your variable, which are the counts or frequencies of your variable in different categories or in different classes. So how you can analyze your data. So the simple test that we can use for the analysis of frequencies is the chi-square test. So in chi-square test, the observed frequencies are compared with expected frequencies on the basis of some null hypothesis. So in this case, you have your observed frequencies that you have taken after your sampling or after your experiments. So these observed frequencies, they are compared with the expected frequencies on the basis of some null hypothesis. It means that you are going to compare your observed frequencies with some expected frequencies on the basis of some model which you build according to your null hypothesis of the experiment. So this is a simple calculation, and this is not the letter X, this is the Greek letter chi. O means observed frequencies and E refers to the expected frequencies. So this is the simple formula of the chi-square test, and there are different forms of the chi-square test that make use of the same formula, but their null hypotheses are different. And the three basic types of the chi-square test, they include the chi-square test of homogeneity, goodness of fit chi-square test, and the chi-square test of independence. So general procedure in any kind of the chi-square test is that first of all, whenever you have your samples or whenever you have your observations, you have to choose the type of chi-square test on the basis of your experiment, that what kind of experiment are you doing, what is your experimental hypothesis, right? So you have to choose the type of chi-square test that you're going to use. And then you have to state the statistical null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis for your statistical test. And then you have to calculate the expected frequencies on the basis of null hypothesis, because you already have your observed frequencies on the basis of the experiment, on the basis of sampling that you did. So now you have to calculate the expected frequencies under the null hypothesis that you have proposed. And then do the calculations, do these calculations and calculate the value of chi-square, which is your test statistic. So what is the next step when you do the test statistic? So when you have your test statistic, what do you do with that? We discussed in the previous lecture. So when you have your test statistic, when you have your calculated value, you compare it with the tabled value of that specific test. So now you have to compare test statistic, which is the calculated value of chi-square, with the tabled value from the chi distribution table. And after you have done this comparison, you're going to state your results, that whether your results are significant or your results are not significant. So this is the general procedure for any kind of the chi-square test that you're going to use.